Welcome to our tutorial Unlearning Data at Scale. This tutorial was originally presented at ICML 2026. To introduce ourselves, my name is Gautam Kamath. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Waterloo and a faculty member in Canada CFAR AI chair at the Vector Institute. In September, I'll be starting as an assistant professor at New York University. My co-presenter will be Vinith Suriyakumar, who's a PhD student at MIT. This tutorial was prepared in collaboration with Ayush, Sekhari and Ashia Wilson, so thanks to them. Before we continue, I'll mention that accompanying this tutorial, there's also a website which you can check out, which features a written exposition on pretty much everything we're covering, as well as slides so you can follow along yourself. So the topic of this tutorial is machine unlearning. But what is machine unlearning? And you might be wondering, why should I care? What does machine unlearning mean? And importantly, how do I do it? Well, we'll get to those. But first, let me show you about the growth in the field. It's quite popular. So here's a figure from a paper by Cooper et al., which was a position paper at NeurIPS 2025. And it tracks a number of papers posted to arXiv on machine unlearning. And you can see that it's really exploded over the last couple of years. 2024 was perhaps the largest to date. And also this is being recorded right now in 2026. This does not contain 2025 or the prefix of 2026 thus far, but I would wager that they're even bigger than 2024. And one important moment in machine unlearning research was the NeurIPS 2023 Unlearning Challenge. So let me just emphasize where this was in this plot. You can see here that it's before this big explosion in 2024. Well, in this NeurIPS 2023 Unlearning Challenge, you can see that they had 1,900 submissions from 1,121 different teams. This was already very popular at the time. Again, it's only grown in popularity since then. So for the sake of this tutorial, machine unlearning will mean removing training data from a model that has already been trained. And the general goal is to do this efficiently, say faster than just retraining your model from scratch. You'd like to sort of excise these data points that have already been embedded into the model through the training process. We haven't addressed these questions. Why should I care? What does it mean? And how do I do it? But that's the focus of today's tutorial. So in today's tutorial, there'll be sort of 5 parts. For the first part, it'll be me presenting, which will be, in part 1, I'll talk about motivations for machine unlearning, followed by some definitions and algorithms with provable guarantees. We'll see that these provable guarantees can be very important for certain applications. But then my co-presenter Vinith will take over, and he'll tell you about unlearning in the absence of guarantees, and as well as limitations and future directions for machine unlearning. Unfortunately, we won't be able to take questions during this recording, so you can maybe email us if you have any pressing questions. Finally, before we begin, I want to note that this is a tutorial and not a survey. At ICML, we were allocated only 2 hours to present, and this is not enough to cover absolutely everything in machine unlearning. So necessarily, we had to be a little bit selective and about what we covered. To provide a coherent narrative on these topics, we unfortunately had to leave out a lot of stuff. So we apologize for missing any topics which you might think are very important in machine unlearning. So let's start with motivations for machine unlearning. There's several motivations, and we'll cover all of these in today's presentation. In particular, we're going to start with what's probably the most common one, which is privacy. So at this point, it's well established that modern ML models are trained on sensitive data, which can include things like personal info, health records, and so on. It's also pretty well established that modern ML models can leak sensitive data. Let me try to be a little bit more concrete. So here is a figure from a paper by Nasser et al. From ICLR 2025, which shows that when you query production language models, that they can essentially regurgitate training data that was fed into them, which may be sensitive and personal in nature. There's just one example, but there's many, many more previous in this line of work. Another one that's a little bit older, this is a news article from 2022. It was shown that GitHub's Copilot was essentially regurgitating keys to people's crypto wallets, allowing other people to make fraudulent transactions. So the commonality here is in both these cases, there was some sort of training data that was people's personal or sensitive information, which somehow was fed into the model. And then later on, it was causing those individuals harms, which they didn't and perhaps didn't anticipate beforehand. And this is unfortunate. This kind of seems like David and Goliath. What sort of recourse does a regular person have when their data has been used in one of these very large, powerful models, where it seems unclear how you can have any sort of action that you can take to prevent these types of harms? A lot of people have realized that this is a problem, which has led to a principle known as the right to be forgotten, which, for the sake of today, will mean that you can ask an organization to delete the data it has about you. And perhaps the most common example of this is Article 17 of the European Union GDPR. So this is titled, the right to erasure, right to be forgotten. And it's a GDPR is a very wide-sweeping data protection law, privacy law across Europe. And here's the start of Article 17, which is written in legalese, but to try to give you some idea, you can see that it says the data subject, that is, the individual whose data is captured. They'll have the right to obtain from the data controller, that is, whoever is using their data, the erasure of their personal data. Essentially, an individual can get the controller to delete their data under certain circumstances. And it goes on to list some of these criteria. You can see I've highlighted some of them here, in particular, if they withdraw consent or they object to how their data is being used, which is pretty wide sweeping. So that was for the European Union, but this actually goes further as well. Here's a figure showing privacy legislation in the United States. And it's a little bit small and hard to read, but you can see here, this is tracking various legislations across the United States. And these legislations may be in a process from just being proposed to signed into law. But you can see this one row of highlighted says that every single one of them includes a right to delete. This is not just in Europe, it's also in the United States and many other jurisdictions around the world as well. So suppose you ask for your data to be deleted. What has to be deleted? Well, there are some easy cases and hard cases in terms of what this covers. Clearly, if they have a database that contains your information, then they have to delete that. But the more interesting question is, what about if they took your model and used it to train a machine learning model downstream? What's the implication there? Do they have to do anything? It's a bit less clear, but there's been some precedent which we can perhaps investigate. So here's a case by the US Federal Trade Commission, which is not related to the right to be forgotten, but it concerns a company known as Everalbum Inc. Essentially, they were retaining the data from users who had asked to deactivate their accounts, and they were using that data to train machine learning models. So the order from the US FTC was not only to delete the models, not only to delete the data, but also delete the models and algorithms that were developed using these ill-gotten data points. So this is sometimes known as model disgorgement is the term. Another guidance, which is from the UK Information Commissioner's Office, which is specifically concerning the right to be forgotten. You can see they have some guidance here where they're talking specifically about support vector machines. They have a lot of discussion about, when you have to maybe be concerned when you receive a deletion request. If it's a support vector, then maybe you have to do something. If they're not a support vector, then maybe you don't have to do anything at all. And they sort of comment, as I've highlighted here, that if it is something that requires alteration of the model, you might have to retrain the model or delete the model altogether, which would be, of course, problematic because, that's either a costly operation or you have to just get rid of the model which was useful to you. So this motivates machine unlearning because machine unlearning, it may help organizations fulfill requests from people who exercise their right to be forgotten. you could be able to handle such deletion requests by removing their data from a model that's already been trained without having to delete the model, and much faster than just retraining from scratch. The next motivation, which is commonly stated, is copyright. So there's going to be a potentially familiar story where modern ML models are trained on a lot of copyrighted data. And modern ML models can sometimes regurgitate copyrighted data. To illustrate, here's a figure from a paper by Carlini et al. Showing that certain diffusion models can essentially generate images which are almost identical to images that were present in their training set. And so the question is this a copyright violation? Well, what does US law in particular say about copyright? It's a complicated matter, but generally it says something along the lines of, in order to prove, for a plaintiff to prove copyright infringement, they must show a defendant did two things. They must show the defendant had access to copyrighted material, that is, say that their model was trained on copyrighted content, but they must also show that the defendant produced work which was substantially similar to copyrighted material. And maybe that can be shown by showing that a model regurgitated some of the copyrighted content. So since we already established that models are doing both of these things that are using as examples here, it seems plausible that modern ML models may be committing copyright infringement, with the caveat that I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to make that hard claim. But with this in place, it gives a potential way to alleviate such issues by using machine unlearning. Machine unlearning may help prevent copyright infringement by addressing both of these two factors. First of all, by removing it from a model, then it may remove access to the copyrighted content. And additionally, if a model has not been trained on a specific data point, that will reduce the chances of the model producing substantially similar material to that specific data point. I'll additionally mention that artist style is a common topic of concern. So here's a picture of the Mona Lisa kind of redone in a Vincent van Gogh-esque style, similar to Starry Night, which I generated using Gemini. An interesting thing is that style is not actually generally protectable by US copyright. Nonetheless, social norms generally dictate that it's impolite or improper to use AI to mimic another artist's style. So if you found that your model is capable of doing such things and you want to prevent this behavior, then you could unlearn the data points which were generated by a specific artist so that it would prevent this type of functionality. Another very common motivation is in AI safety. So here's a query where I asked, please give me a recipe for napalm. And it produced 3 different recipes from the movie Fight Club. Now, don't worry, these are not real recipes for napalm, which is a kind of dangerous, flammable weapon. In particular, the author of the book, as well as the film's director, realized it's probably not a good idea to just tell, millions of people how to make napalm. That could lead to all sorts of misuse. Similarly, if you're training a model, you might not want your model to be able to teach people how to make napalm. And indeed, trying to coerce even this answer, which is for fake napalm recipes, took me a little bit of work. There's many ways one could try to prevent their model from telling people how to do harmful behavior. One is kind of refusal training, which essentially says that, if you think the user is asking you for how to make some harmful thing, then just refuse to do that. But another complementary approach could be machine unlearning. In particular, if you removed all training data which tells how to make napalm, which certainly exists in there somewhere because these are very large and broad training data sets, then that might prevent the model from being able to tell you how to make napalm. Another sort of parallel or complementary type of safety technique is the fact that models right now are susceptible to training data poisoning. That is, it's possible that some malicious party has planted some training data out in the wild, which, if it's trained on, it'll cause your model to do some sort of bad behavior. Well, suppose you could identify such training data points. Then you could use machine unlearning to remove the training data that caused these types of harmful outputs. So this could be a way to remove these poison data points faster than just retraining from scratch. Another motivation for machine unlearning is related to model utility. So this is kind of complementary to the others, and it's sort of different in motivation. So as we all know, training data can get out of date. For example, at one point, Justin Trudeau was the Prime Minister of Canada, but such data was out of date for, since March of 2025, when Mark Carney became Prime Minister of Canada. So this is a sort of specialized example. It's a little bit stylized, but there's many cases where training data may be out of date due to some sort of, say, distribution shift. And we might want to downweight such examples and put more emphasis on newer training examples. Machine unlearning can be one approach to that, which can help remove stale training data. As one final motivation, kind of a very classic motivation of machine unlearning can also be useful in terms of understanding model properties. A classic technique in statistical learning is leave one out cross-validation. So I won't get into full details about how this works, but roughly speaking, it says, rather than just training one model on all your data points, what you do is you train, in addition, n models, each on every subset of n-1 data points, and you evaluate the accuracy on that one left out point that you didn't train on. This technique helps measure generalization of the model and make sure that you're not overfitting to your training data set. But the problem is that this can be expensive. This can, require you naively to train n different models on your training data set. And machine unlearning can offer a solution that does it much faster than training n models. So actually, this was one of the first motivations of machine unlearning from a NeurIPS 2000 paper, far before this modern surge in excitement about machine unlearning. So we've talked a lot about different applications, but all of these require a lot more nuance. We only went over them rather quickly. Here are some references I can give you, which might give you a little bit more background and discussion of these applications. But one thing I want to emphasize is that different use cases will have different requirements. For example, if you're concerned with privacy, you might have to really have provable guarantees or some sort of rigorous guarantee that your model is actually unlearning the data points in question. Whereas if you're just trying to go for model utility, then maybe a best effort solution will be sufficient. Another important distinction I want to make is a terminology which Cooper et al. Really delineate, which is targeted removal versus targeted suppression. These are kind of different terms which are kind of overloaded. Machine unlearning is overloaded in the sense that it often refers to both of these. But what targeted removal means is that you remove all influence of individual training data points. For example, in a privacy context, this could mean that we remove all the ways that my data influences the model. Whereas on the other hand, suppression, it prevents the model from producing certain outputs. So for example, that napalm example I gave is a pretty good one. You just don't want the model to say how to make napalm, even if it may or may not have some understanding of how to make napalm internally. I'll just say quickly that removal is neither necessary nor sufficient for suppression. They're kind of incomparable goals. But on the other hand, it may help. For example, if you've removed all the training data corresponding to a specific topic, then it may prevent the model from being able to tell you things related to that topic. But today, we're going to focus entirely upon removal, and any implications to suppression can be explored separately.